Well, the government says that the increased enforcement is the right thing to do, but others are pointing out that the tone and some of the branding is akin to Reform UK, which has been campaigning strongly on immigration. So let's take a look at what the public thinks on this. Rob Ford is Professor of Political Science at the University of Manchester. Good afternoon, Rob.
Good afternoon.
Now, immigration, of course, covers many things. Can we break down so we get some sense or understanding of where people's attitudes are to it?
Well, I mean, it is a complex issue with many moving parts. To take two examples, the public tend to say, or a majority of the public say, that immigration overall is too high. But a majority of the public also say that most of the largest streams of legal migration are actually forms of migration that they are happy with. The second important point to bear in mind here is that there is no issue in British politics today that is more politically polarised than immigration. 3/4 of Reform UK voters regard it as the most important issue on the agenda. The figure for Labour voters is more like 1 in 8, which puts it as an issue with Labour voters right at the back of the queue, well behind cost of living, NHS, housing, the environment, and all sorts of other things, which is what creates this internal tension for Labour. This is why, on the one hand, they feel they really have to talk about this issue and demonstrate action on this issue because it is such a strong hot button issue for Reform voters, also Tory voters. But at the same time, you'll get people on the more progressive left side of the political spectrum who aren't particularly comfortable with anything that looks like an attempt to appease supporters of Nigel Farage.
OK, so when you look at the breakup of voters between the different parties, whilst they might lose some to Reform if they move in one direction, if they move in the other, they could lose, as many to the likes of the Green Party and the Liberal Democrats?
Well, the dilemma for Labour is they can't afford to lose either group. They can't afford to lose many voters who are unhappy about immigration. And it's important also to remember that Labour came into office with very low public trust on this issue. So I think one of the aims of this action is to try and rebuild very low public trust. That's difficult. But on the other hand, if they do push too hard on this issue, they risk antagonising voters on the kind of progressive left of the spectrum. And the worst of all worlds is one in which they don't manage to convince many distrustful Reform voters to give them a hearing on this, but at the same time they end up losing votes on the left. All of that said, it is worth remembering that the public are very keen to see a more effective enforcement of immigration laws. It's one of the most popular policies on immigration whenever you poll across the piece. So taking strong action and, basically having a whole day where all of the news headlines lead with "we are cracking down, we are enforcing the law," I mean, it makes perfect sense from a polling perspective.
OK, but just to go back to what you were saying at the outset, there are some types of immigration you said that people do like, and which are the largest forms.
Yes. And what I think this highlights...
Could you just to unpack that for a little bit? What are the sort of things that people do approve of?
Well, they're happy with immigration into the NHS. They're happy with immigration into social care. They're broadly happy with immigration into the university sector. They're happy for us to recruit more doctors, more nurses, more care workers. They're happy for more IT workers. They're happy for more fruit pickers. There's actually a long list of jobs that they're happy to see more immigration in. They were also happy to accept, upwards of 200,000 refugees from Ukraine under our various Ukraine humanitarian scheme, a figure which is an order of magnitude larger than the small boats migration that has been the focus of so much discussion. Now, what this illustrates is that voters don't care about numbers in isolation. This isn't an accounting book exercise. They care about how numbers fit with a story about choice and control. It's fine to take a lot of Ukrainians because we have chosen to do so and we control who comes. It's not fine to take a smaller number of people on small boats. It's not fine to have a smaller number of people working illegally because we didn't choose it and we don't control it. And what the government's doing today is focused on trying to demonstrate that critical quality of control.
Rob Ford, thank you very much.